In this video, I'm going to go over the synth section in the advanced page of the granular layer of PedMotion. As you can probably notice, there are many more parameters provided here than what you find on the simple page. So starting from the top, we have the single sample browser, which if you click there, you can find over 680 different sample sources to choose from. If I choose something different, you'll notice that the sample display updates with whatever sample you choose. This highlighted region is the looped region of the sample. Coming down here, we have the playback mode. We have the sample start, sample end, the fade in and out of the sample start and sample end, as well as the crossfade. We have the loop mode, plenty of different options there. You have the loop start and loop end, and you can also adjust the crossfade for the loop, the curve of the crossfade, and the tuning of the crossfade. Going towards the middle, you have the grain. You can add up to 8 grains, the speed, and the direction. Coming over to the left, we have the level. Everything across here is associated with the level, just as everything across here is associated with position, duration there, length, key follow, and pitch. You have the level. Here is where you can adjust the level of the oscillator in itself. Coming over, we have the random level. This will set a random level for each new grain that is created. Then we have the width. This is pretty much the stereo width. By adjusting this, you can widen or narrow the stereo field. Auto G stands for auto gain, and what this will do is this will automatically adjust the level of grains by using quieter sample parts in the sample. Making our way down, we have the position. With the position knob, you can adjust where the cursor lies within the sample. Then next to that, you have random position. What random position does is this sets the range of which a random playback position will be chosen. Then you also have spread. What this will do is this will spread the number of grains further apart along the sample. So right now we kind of have it at 0. It's pretty centered there. If I increase it, you can see that it's spread out quite a bit across the sample. And the offset position, what this does is this will offset the playback position for each new channel of the sample that's created. Making our way down, we have duration. This will increase or decrease the grain period. You have random duration, which sets a range to randomize the grain duration. The duration spread will spread out the duration over different grains. So each grain will have a different duration. So for example, the first grain will be half as long and the last grain will be twice as long. If you set this to negative values, so if I were to go to the left rather than do the right with positive, the first grain will be longer and the last grain will be shorter. And then you have the grain offset, and this will just offset the duration of grains across the sample. Making our way over, we have pitch. With pitch, you can specify an octave down or an octave up and everything in between. So what this will do is this will either play, depending on how you set it, this will play the grains at their original pitch, or they can be transposed according to whatever interval you set it to be. Then you have random pitch next to it. This will set the range of which a random pitch is chosen for the grains. Then you have the spread. What this will do is this will determine the pitch values of the grains. The first grain will keep the pitch that is specified with the pitch knob, and then all the subsequent ones will become detuned depending on whatever value you set here at the spread. And then you have the offset pitch, which will offset the pitch of the grains. You can think of it as this. It splits the sample in two. So you have the left channels and then the right channels. And what this will do, if we take it to a positive setting, the right channels will be detuned upwards, while the left channels will be detuned downwards. So below that, we have the key follow. What this does is it's kind of linked with the duration. Depending on how you set the value for the key follow, this will determine the grain duration depending on what notes you play across the keyboard. Then you can choose the center key here. And then you can also toggle on or off the follow zone pitch. So by having it enabled, what will happen is the higher the pitch, the shorter the duration, and vice versa. If you don't want that behavior, you can toggle this off and the follow zone pitch will be off. Lastly, we have the length section. The length knob will set the length of the grains. You can either shorten it or elongate it. And by doing so, this will not actually affect the duration of the grains. This will act independent of it. Then we have the random length. What this does is will set a range to randomize the grain lengths. Then we have the length spread. What this will do is modify the length of the grains. And so with a positive value, the first grain will be much shorter than the last grain. With a negative value, the first grain will be much longer than the last grain. And then lastly, we have the length offset. What this will do is this will offset the grain lengths across the channels. If you have a positive setting, this will shorten the grain length for the right channel, anything to the right of the cursor. And with a negative setting, this will shorten the lengths of the grains to the left and elongate them to the right of the cursor. And the last part for the grain synth section is we have the waveform modulation. So this is just a simple LFO, but the destinations are specific to parameters that you'll find in the grain synth section. So you got an amount, rate, shape, and phase. You can choose the waveform type, retrigger mode, the destination, and then you have presets that you can choose from there. So that wraps up the brief overview of the Granular Synth section in PadMotion.